We've got a great show. Joshua Green and Representative Stacey Plaskett are here. But first, he is the Brooklyn Borough President, who's currently the Democratic nominee for the New York City mayor and author of the book Healthy at Last. Eric Adams is over here. Thank you, sir. Eric, how you doing?
Quite well, Bill. You know, I really have a confession to make to all that all of this was a subterfuge. I did all of this just so I could get on this darn show, man, and I finally got here.
I appreciate you saying that, because I was going to say to you right off the bat, I'm not going to be coy. I'm a big fan. I love what you're doing. No, I mean... I honestly, I didn't know about you until 6 months ago, but then everything I read, now when people ask me about you, I'm like, I love this fucking guy. This is what the Democratic Party needs. So you're going to be the mayor of New York, unless there's a zombie apocalypse. And you know, it's such a great story, because you had a message that was different from everybody else's message. And it proves that once in a while in politics, you can put a product out there and the people will say, I didn't know about that, but now that I see it, yes, that's what we need. That's what we want. So just quickly, for everybody who's just getting to know you, sum up that message that you had that has taken you to this great victory.
Well, really, it's my life story. You know, 15-year-old, I was arrested, beat by police officers, and instead of saying, woe is me, I said, why not me? I went into the police department, started an organization to fight for safety and justice together. And I did that, moved up through the ranks, became a captain, and I saw the impact of proper policing, but also saw the impact of the criminality in our cities across America, and I pursued justice and safety. And I'm just an everyday person, a dishwasher as a child, lived on the verge of homelessness. We used to carry a garbage bag full of clothing to school every day because we thought when we come home we would be thrown out. Went to school at night, studied. I went through my entire educational experience in public school, not knowing I had a learning disability until I stumbled onto it in college and got the resources. And so people just felt the authentic story of how I want to turn around the city of New York and end inequality and see our economy grow at the same time.
And you said when you were not running just against candidates. You said, I'm running against a movement.
Yes.
What did you mean by that?
We see what's happening in America. We see the demonization of public safety, which I believe is the prerequisite to prosperity. We see the demonization of those who are high-income earners. 65,000 New Yorkers pay 51% of our income taxes. If we lose them, we lose the teacher, the firefighter, the Department of Sanitation employee. They pay those taxes that we need. And we just see the divide of our countries. And listen, this is not a socialist country. Let's be clear on that. This is a country that believes to give people the opportunities and they will be able to exceed and excel in this country. And I believe in that is because that's what I saw in my personal journey and the journey of so many people who come to this country.
It sounds like a long way of saying you have common sense, which it seems a lot of times, from my view, lacking in the Democratic Party. Would you believe that is their Achilles heel? I mean, you have said that they better pay attention to what you achieved in New York, or they're going to lose the midterm elections and they're going to lose the next election. Is this what you're talking about, that people look at the Democrats and they just see so many things that are goofy because they somehow think Twitter is the electorate, and it's not?
So true. I could not have said it better. I stated this on the day of the primary. People on social media don't decide these elections. People on Social Security, they decide these elections. Everyday people. But, Bill, you know what we're doing in our country, in cities across America? Archbishop Desmond Tutu had a quote. We spend a lifetime pulling people out of the river. No one goes upstream and prevent them from falling in the first place. We let people fall in a river of crime, foster care children not getting support, homelessness, health. Just think about health. You know my story, lost my sight with type 2 diabetes, permanent nerve damage, had an ulcer, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. And because I was feeding my crises based on what I was eating every day, I changed my diet. In 3 weeks, my vision came back. 3 months, my diabetes went in remission. My nerve damage went away. It was never my DNA. It was my darn dinner. I was feeding my healthcare crises. And we do that every day in America. I want to go upstream and prevent people from falling in the river of despair.
Well, yeah, again, this is why we love each other. I've been saying that stuff about food forever that you just said. And they just hate me for it. It's like the ultimate third rail in politics is do not mention the food, even though it's so relevant to, I mean, it was relevant to the healthcare crisis in this country before COVID, but even more so after. If you're not in good health to begin with, you can't fight off anything.
That's right. Well said, well said. And, you know, think about what we're doing. Our country and cities are so dysfunctional. We create our crises. How do you have a Department of Health and Mental Hygiene in New York spends millions of dollars to fight childhood obesity, diabetes, and asthma, yet every day we serve our babies 960,000 meals in the Department of Education, and those meals cause what? Childhood obesity, diabetes, asthma. You go into the hospital for diabetes, they give you the food that aggravates your diabetes. Prisons are fed food that causes chronic disease. We feed our crises in America. Someone needs to wake up and say, let's stop this silliness and finally start to go upstream on healthcare, on crime, on education. Do you know in New York, 80% of the prisoners in Rikers Island don't have a high school diploma or an equivalency diploma? If you don't educate, you're going to incarcerate. And we are so used to this dysfunctionality that someone has to say, let's stop this stupidity and become the New York and the America that we deserve to become.
This guy speaks and applause breaks. But yeah, tell me what you think about this. I think black politicians in the Democratic Party have to lead us out of the wilderness because I feel like a guy like you has your finger on the pulse of what the voters want so much better than the people who follow Twitter. And the white politicians in the party are so afraid of being called insufficiently anti-racist, which is not, of course, something they can level at you. So you're free to speak common sense. You are free to speak these words you are speaking tonight. And, you know, Joe Biden, I think, was saved by the black voters of this country that are getting him as the nominee, rather, because up until then it was going to be people who were more farther to the left. And there was just a practicality, I think, that goes on in the African-American community, that white people, it's an indulgence to be impractical. It's the ultimate example of white privilege.
And, you know, it's so important, Bill, as we look. I'll never forget, as a rookie police officer, seeing an 11-year-old child that committed a robbery. He was arrested 2 to 3 times. And when I spoke to that child, I learned that his mother was on crack cocaine. His dad was in jail. He was raising himself. He was out of school for months, and no one discovered that or find out what he needed. We have to understand that we just deserve so much better. And I just don't want New Yorkers to surrender. I believe we just have to believe again in who we are. And we will see how we can turn around this city. We don't have to define ourselves by 3-year-olds being shot in Times Square. We don't have to define ourselves about dividing ourselves on ethnicity. When they looked at my voters, I had this diverse group of everyday blue collar, I like to say New Yorkers from all different ethnic groups that stated, this is a common sense person that is going to show how government must work again for the people and stop betraying the people of this city.
And you were endorsed by George Floyd's brother, right? How do we convince so many people, I would say on the far left, that, you know, every cop in America isn't the one who did the atrocity to George Floyd? You know, we can't live
That's a great
without the
question.
police, you know, as you
That's
well know from your public service.
That's a great question, but here's something else. I was endorsed by George Floyd's brother, but I was also endorsed by Wen Jian's parents. Wen Jian's was the first Chinese American officer assassinated in the city of New York. So you see what happened there? I was endorsed by someone who lost a family member from a victim of police misconduct, but endorsed by the family members of someone whose officer was killed in a line of duty. That is what we're missing. I'm going to rebuild that trust and understand the good guys are losing our streets to the bad guys. They want us at each other's throat. But I'm also going to expect more from my police officers. You are going to lift up the nobility of public safety. It's noble to run in a building when someone is discharging a weapon, but it's not noble to destroy someone's life by putting your knee on their neck. We're not going to allow those officers to stay in our department. I'm going to have the backs of my officers, but they're going to have the backs of the people of this city they sworn to serve and protect.
Right. And you're the guy who can get that done. Well, listen, I know you're a busy guy these days. I notice everybody in the Democratic Party wants to get his picture taken with you now. So I appreciate you making the time to come here. I know you've not been shy about saying you are the face of the Democratic Party in the future. I hope that comes to pass. Great to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's meet our panel.